Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to our weekly Monday coffee chat. I hope you guys are having a great time, and we're going to leave this coffee chat having so much more information and so much more knowledge.
Awesome. I'm super excited, actually, Kali. Thank you so much for starting us off. But how was your weekend?
My weekend was good. Budget speech was pretty interesting. But outside of that, didn't really do anything too hectic. Very chill, very laid back.
Awesome, eh? So mine was pretty cool as well. As some of you know, I had an interview at ENCA talking about the budget speech and reviewing the Minister of Finance's decisions to increase the barrier within which the transfer duties would be increased from. So that was pretty cool. And as you can see, there's a recurring trend going on where Andrew Walker finds a reason to let us down. So everyone, could you please tag Andrew in the comment section down below if you are watching from Facebook? Just tag Andrew and just say, Andrew, stop the excuses. So just at Andrew and say, stop the excuses. Let's see if he does come. So Andrew found another reason to not come today. He is sick. Gee, shame. I actually saw him. He's pretty sick, but we don't care about context here. We do not care about context. Let us know where you're joining us from, and let us know what you thought of the budget speech by the minister. What did you take out of it? And joining us later on, we'll see if Shelly Boy Mutiba or Lisa will be joining us reviewing the budget speech as well. But if you are joining us, like Kali said, welcome to the weekly coffee chat with myself and Andrew. And Andrew's not here again. So people that are joining us, please just at Andrew and tell him, stop the excuses. But Kali, talk to us about you. You've been looking for a property. Hey, how's that journey going?
The journey is good. Firstly, I saw your ENCA interview, that Nelson Mandela shirt.
Thank you.
Spot on. Just
Thank you.
Immaculate. So for those of you who didn't see it, you can catch it on YouTube. Secondly, Andrew might not be here, but I am. Okay, I'm starting to feel bad. Like, do you not want me here?
Oh,
I'm starting to feel bad. Like, I think I'm a cute stunt double.
Yes.
Okay?
So Kali's better. Huh?
Yes, Kali's better, but Andrew should be here. However, I am starting first time buyer property journey. It's quite interesting in terms of the viewing, because I remember when I was viewing just as like a tenant or just somebody who's looking for property, versus now once you're learning more information, such as the things that you learn from the fundamental course, you start looking at different things, and that's a partly why we do these coffee chats, just to give people information and knowledge as and when they grow in their property journeys, so that they can understand what to look for, because you don't know what you don't know. So I see we have people from Cape Town, and we have so just let us know where you guys are from. But as we're doing that, I'm going to be reading where everybody is from. Let me know, Daniel, what do we have in store in terms of events?
Awesome. So we've got a cool set of events lining up. We had ended with our February events. Yeah. On the 2nd of March, people in PE, Jade Barkhuysen, we'll get Jade on in a minute. He is having a networking event all around student accommodation in PE. I'll not even try to say the new name. Quebeca, I think.
You got to click. You got Quebec.
Yeah, Quebeca. And then on the 4th, I think, Ntando and Bevin are having a walkthrough through Durban CBD with Kendall, I think, and it's all around viewing properties and opportunities that exist in the CBD area. Looking further down the line, we are having a wealth builder in Johannesburg. For those that do not know, wealth builders are such awesome one-day workshops where we are talking all things property. Myself, Andrew Duma was at the last one, where we talk about business and structures. How do you actually take your business to the next level? It's going to be awesome. And then Jonathan and Akashni, not Jonathan, he's having a Cape Town women's breakfast all around. Let me just see. Be the best you can be in the property industry. We've got an amazing guest speaker on the 18th of March, and it's actually going to be good. So for those that are joining, once more, please tag Andrew Walker if you are on Facebook and tell him, stop the excuses. Andrew has been ducking the coffee chats for a while, and it's time we caught him on that. But Kali, tell me what's happening on today's coffee chat.
So today's coffee chat, we're going to be introducing you to the SAPIN family all throughout the country. We're going to be introducing you to all of our area managers. So we're going to be showing love to PE, to Cape Town, to Pietermaritzburg, to Durban. Literally all of our area managers are going to be joining us today, so you can learn the different opportunities in different areas. Because, for example, if you do Airbnb, Coastally, it makes a little bit more sense. However, you could find that student accommodation makes more sense inland. So our area managers are going to be telling us about the opportunities in their respective cities. So I'm super excited for that one.
Awesome. Should we maybe bring them out? Eh?
Yes, we should.
Awesome. Let's bring out the cavalry. Let's see. I'm missing one more, huh?
Yeah, one more to go.
Where is Jonathan?
I'm actually like, okay, I like Jonathan, but I would have preferred Akashni because at least then I'm not the only girl. It's poverty, I promise.
No, I get you. I totally get you. Akashni plays a valuable role in kind of just balancing things out.
But we're still super happy that you made it, Jonathan. So we'll start right from the top. Ntando, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Ntando, as Kale has mentioned. I am the area manager for Pietermaritzburg. So if you're from Pietermaritzburg, you know anyone from Pietermaritzburg, holla at me. So yeah, what I do, guys, is I have a construction company. I build and renovate houses in and around the KZN area. So not just limited to Pietermaritzburg. And I'm also, I think, now a valued member of SAPIN. So yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do, guys.
Geez, thank you so much for that. We're super excited. So Jade did drop off, but we'll get him to introduce himself a bit later. Bevin joined us. Bevin, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm well, thanks. How are you all?
We are great, Bevin. How are you?
Good, very good.
So Bevin, tell us maybe a bit about yourself for those that are joining that haven't heard of you. Could you just give us a quick introduction, who you are, what do you do on a day-to-day? As well as what areas you managing, huh?
Perfect. So obviously my name is Bevin Thomas. I am the Durban area manager for SAPIN, and I've been involved with SAPIN since 2017. And I'd say the last 2 years I was very quiet within the network. I wasn't too involved. So I'm now trying to get myself back into the swing of things and catch up. I think the problem with COVID meant that an area like Durban, we're a little bit more remote and out there, so we don't push these things too often. So with COVID, we ended up losing a lot of the momentum and traction that we had as SAPIN in this area. So end of last year, we started to push Durban again. We've introduced with Ntando in Pietermaritzburg. And this year, the whole goal is to really push KZN and again, the other areas with PE, Cape Town, and not only have everything in the main city hub of Joburg. So I'm excited about what's in store coming up for SAPIN nationally, and then what we're able to do in our individual regions and make it really give our members the best value in each region throughout the country.
Fantastic. Very well said, Bevin. And as we keep the ball rolling, next up, we're going to have Jonathan. If you could just tell us where you're from and what it is you do.
Absolutely. So, hey everyone, I'm Jonathan Weimers, and together with my wife Akashni, we founded a company called Weimers Enterprises, and we are the official Cape Town partner. So you'll find us at every breakfast, every premier event, every public event. You will find me on videos and standing up wherever. I absolutely love to talk. So I'm also going to try and make sure that I don't talk too much here. But just a bit about us. We're both from a very deep corporate background. So by deep corporate, I mean consulting like Deloitte and Accenture. I myself was at Old Mutual, Akashni was at TFG, and a few other large corporates. So we really know about, when people talk about things like, I don't have time, I don't know what's the right investment, I don't know how to do this, whatever, or geez, I'm just too busy, I'm juggling day and night and weekends, whatever. We know. We've been there, and we grew a property portfolio that's in Johannesburg, Pretoria, Stellenbosch, Paarl, and Cape Town, whilst in that corporate environment. So we fully understand time constraints, but also how does one manage those time constraints? What we offer in terms of the SAPIN network, we do the coaching, we offer business consulting, and we're really looking forward in terms of just getting the Cape Town scene pumped. There's so much potential. There's so much going on with the different strategies that you can apply. And I'm going to stop right there, and I'll let our hosts, Daniel and Khadi, know if you guys want me to talk a bit more about what's happening in areas or from a strategy perspective, let me know, but I'm going to stop there because I just talk way too much.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say we are going to go into that. For all the viewers that are joining us from the different cities, we will be discussing things like what are the trends that the different area managers are seeing within their specific areas, the right investments they have noticed, and the right areas as well. But before that, I'm gonna just get Jade to introduce himself. Jade, how are you doing, bud?
Hello, Dan the man. Thanks, guys, for having me. Hello, Kali.
Hi, Jade.
Yeah, guys. So I'm obviously from Port Elizabeth, or the word that Dan was struggling to say is Tebega. I know it's a bit of a tongue twister, but we're still calling it PE down here for now. Guys, yeah. So just a quick background on myself. I've been blessed enough to always run my own businesses. Never really worked for someone. I'm also an estate agent with a heavy focus on commercial property sales and procurement rentals. And then in my personal capacity, I've got a property portfolio that I manage. And I also specialize in doing flips as well as redevelopment of existing buildings, typically in your lower LSM areas. I like that part of the market just because there's a lot of demand, and in that rental bracket of between 3,000 and 7,500. That's really where the majority of your tenants come from. So yeah, also obviously a property coach since 2018. So I really love coaching students across the country. Really passionate about that. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Maybe Jade, before we then go on to the questions, you're hosting an event this week with Anzu. Hey, do you want to maybe tell everyone about the event? Who your guest speakers are? I see you have brought in some big players. Look, that's going to be an exciting event, hey?
Absolutely, Dan. And the reason why Andrew's in bed is because he's getting himself ready for PE. He's got a bit of man flu, so I said he better not do anything to jeopardize his trip. So Andrew will be here for a couple of days. But yeah, Dan, we're really excited about Thursday evening's event, starting at 6:30. We've got Kanya Ngonyama. He bought 2 very big buildings in central Port Elizabeth last year. So he's going to be talking about his journey in student accommodation. And then also we've got a world-renowned architect in Dr. Chris Mulder that will also be talking about development. So yeah, really privileged to have 2 people of that caliber at our event on Thursday evening.
Geez, yeah, it's going to be amazing, hey? But let's maybe jump straight into it. I'm going to start with maybe Bevin. Bevin, you are the area manager of Durban. For all of our viewers that are based in Durban, what are some of the trends you've seen or opportunities that you have seen within that area that you think that more investors need to be aware of and they can take advantage of?
So the last couple of years, Durban's taken a big beating, as most of us know. And I think it means a lot of people are reluctant to jump into Durban too much. And when I talk about it, there's things like over the Christmas season where there was that huge influence of sewage spillage and so on, which I think wasn't the best thing for the local tourism. And it's a bit unfortunate because the Airbnb market has been doing well in Durban, and especially your places, your Belitas, your Umhlangas, your North Coast properties. There's been great opportunity, I think, over the last year. And then unfortunately, going into December last year, that sort of backfired on a lot of people. So I think people are a little bit wary of the Airbnb market or even anything tourism-wise. But I think what's happened as a result of that is it's pushed people more to sort of like the South Coast, where there's less of these big cities coming up. It's been a bit of a slower rebuild in those areas. So there's less shortage as far as the municipalities go. So that's kind of where I see some of the changes happening in that short-term letting market. But I have a feeling by the end of this year, everyone should have it, or the municipality should have everything back on track. And we'll probably see those tourism areas like the North Coast, Belita, ramping up again and sort of recovering from what's happened over the last year or so. Another thing that affected the North Coast was the floods, and where there was some of the bridges washed away. And I see that there's been a couple of contractors that have been allocated. So we're expecting to see some of the improvements there and access back in place, etc. So that I thought was a nice starting point to sort of talk about it, because as a coastal city, the tourism really does drive people when it comes into investing in properties. And then I think the next element I wanted to chat about is really what other strategies people are doing. So what works very well in Durban is your multi-lets and the student accommodation. So just talking on the multi-lets, what's nice is with sort of like the shifting of demographics in some of the bigger areas, there's sort of a real change in what the areas are taking at the moment. And when I talk about that, I mean some areas historically had wealthy demographic, and those meant that there were big houses that were built and so on. And what's happened in the last couple of years is people started to move to the North Coast, the Umhlanga, the Belito, etc., which has created a little bit of a sort of speed wobble to those old markets. But the opportunity is there because there's big properties in those areas that the potential there is to do your multi-lets very nicely in that sort of area. So talk about spaces like Westville, which is very central on the artery road sort of thing, going between Pietermaritzburg through into Durban Central. It's got quick access to North Coast, South Coast. So that sort of area does very well as far as for your young professionals getting quick access to transport, and then also multi-let, bigger properties, good opportunity there. And then touching on student accommodation, again, Durban has a funny start to every year where every single UKZN campus has to have a strike at the beginning of the year, but it fizzles out as we get into March. So every year, February is strike season for the universities. But what I've found through personal experience, unfortunately, is that the Westville campus takes the most knock as far as the strikes go. And so I generally, my feedback to people is that try not to focus on the Westville campus because it's quite isolated, very far away from like your main roads, etc. Because it's almost got a sort of forestry area, or what they call a demos area in the surrounds of it. So it makes it quite far away from your main access routes, etc. But what's very good if you are thinking of student accommodation as a strategy is to look at being as close as possible, and the best space to be is almost halfway between the Durban Central DUT and the UKZN Howard campus. So if you can sort of be in between those two campuses, it gives you quite a nice sweet spot to focus on both those campuses. So you're attracting students from both campuses, and then sort of lower down towards Umbilo, there's a lot of like nursing colleges and TVETs and so on. So your technical colleges, that there's opportunity to take advantage of those students in there. I think that kind of gives like a good all-round summary of Durban, but it always depends on your strategy and what you're targeting. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, geez, thanks so much for that, Bevin. So much value you've given there. Has the yearly strike taken place this year, or are you still expecting it to come soon?
So it has taken place already. I'm not sure if it started to filter out, but usually the problem with the strikes is the debt from previous years that students are trying to have cleared. Then it's allocation of funds, getting their money from NSFAS to be able to register for the new year. And then the last thing is actual accommodation. So what accommodation is available? I think the students generally prefer to stay at the campus accommodation before they start looking outside. So there's normally like a big fight for those who didn't manage to get into that accommodation. And then the next level is once they've got through all those headaches, then these strikes sort of start to fizzle out. So I think we're at the end of it, but there's still a little bit of that dissatisfaction.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Bevin. I think I was going to ask you around areas, but which you've touched already upon. So thank you so much for the value that you've given, and especially when you're going towards multi-tenanted type deals. So whether multi-lets or student accommodations, That's where the importance of making sure you manage your utilities comes into play. And I know later, once we've gone through everyone, maybe there's an opportunity to talk about the hard learnings that you've had with prepaid meters and the scary stories that you've encountered personally and the solution going forward. And for everyone that is joining us, again, welcome to the coffee chat, and make sure that you are asking any questions that you have for your area managers down below. And I know, Kali, you had a question for Jade, I believe, right?
Yes, I did. I do understand that, Jade, unfortunately, you're going to have to leave us quite soon. So I wanted to know, similar to Bevin, what would you say are the key, most lucrative opportunities in PE?
Kelly, I'd say absolutely student accommodation. There's definitely still a shortage of student accommodation in PE. Areas like Summerstrand and also Central and North End are popular areas. We are seeing a bit of a move from the university side to prefer bigger residences. It's obviously a lot of admin, a lot of work for them to get all the smaller places accredited. So we are seeing a slight move to the university preferring bigger residences. And then also Airbnb, obviously we're on the coast. I feel like it's a little bit of an untapped strategy still down here. Areas like Summerstrand and Newwood are really good for Airbnb. So those are two really strong strategies down here, Kelly.
Awesome. And that's actually good that you did mention it, Jade. You did mention it when we were in conversation with Anzu, and that's where your event comes in, where you will be going into much more detail around student accommodations, accreditations, and different guest speakers. We'll be tackling different elements of it, huh?
Yeah, Dan, I'm looking forward to hear from Bevin. Obviously, he's very experienced in the prepaid electricity and water game. And with us in PE, we are under water shortages at the moment. So we've seen a lot of people with multi-lets having to offload their properties because the price of water has gone up tenfold. A lot of guys have been caught out like that because they don't have prepaid water and electricity meters in place, especially water. It's incredible. So to give you an idea, the normal rate per 1,000 liters of water in PE used to be about 23 Rand, more or less, excluding VAT. As you go up the tiers, if you get to the top tier, you're paying about 340 Rand per 1,000 liters. So you're going from 23 Rand to 340 Rand per 1,000 liters. That takes your cash flow and it can bankrupt you if you do that for a couple of months. So it's been very interesting, Daniel, to having to navigate that. But I think that's the beauty of SAPIN as well. We've got people with experience with this, and you have to tap into it, because if you're that investor that knows how to manage it properly, you can make really, really good investments because you know how to do that. Where your average man on the street or woman on the street doesn't know really how to manage utilities. So looking forward to see what Bev has to say as well.
That is fantastic, Jay. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it's interesting that the density of your investments do center around student accommodation. It's actually quite intriguing because I wouldn't have thought student accommodation in PE. I logically would have said Airbnb or because you guys are coastal. However, similar to that, I want to ask Ntando, since you're in Pietermaritzburg, it's technically a little bit smaller and not as coastal as the other area managers, so your Durbans, your Cape Towns and such. And typically somebody wouldn't think there's a lot of opportunity in a place like Pietermaritzburg. So I wanted to know from your side, which places and specifically what areas and what opportunities are possible in Pietermaritzburg?
All right, I'll be honest with you. People who live in Pietermaritzburg have written off Pietermaritzburg. People who live outside of Pietermaritzburg overlook Pietermaritzburg, but that's not the case. It shouldn't be the case. I always say to people that the beauty of Pietermaritzburg is the fact that it's small, and it provides a lot of opportunities. I mean, if I could name a few, definitely will always be students' accommodation. And just to add to what Bevin had said, the strikes are over. My mother's a lecturer at UKZN, and she says the strikes are over officially today. But the issue still is around students' accommodation. But yeah, one of the areas that I've always seen as an area that has really great potential for students' accommodation is Scottsville. The way that Scottsville is the geographic location of the varsity itself is in the center of the entire area. So there are people there who have now converted their houses into student accommodation, and as a result, there are people who are living there who want to now move out because they don't like sharing, the space with students, But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. I'm looking at, for example, the city center. There is a huge demand for quality, and I have to repeat, quality residential accommodation in the city center. A lot of people live in sort of like the outer part of Pietermaritzburg. So to travel to work every single day, that's taking a huge chunk of their salaries, and people complain about that. We've even had strikes, for example, people striking about taxi fares going up, and so people really do want to live closer to where they work. But these are the opportunities that are present, and there's also, I have to mention, Hilton and Howick. These are areas that are growing. I could liken it to such as Balito, Sibaya precincts, and how they've just been developing. Hilton and Howick are also up and coming, so there will be really good opportunities there for investors. Because if you're having people migrating from one place to another, you're definitely going to have opportunities in those places.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's awesome. And what I'm currently seeing as a trend is different areas would call for different. They have their own unique problems and situations, but also their own solutions and opportunity. If you are an educated investor, you can't obviously throw a blanket over the whole of South Africa. This is how you invest. Each area comes with its own unique situations, and one specific area I'd say that highlights this is Cape Town, actually. So I'm just going to bring Jonathan up here. I remember conversations we'd have with Dave, Dave being part of SAPIN's team and internal team, and we were telling him a story of how there's a student in Johannesburg that bought a one-bedroom flat for about 200,000 rand. And Dave just started laughing, and he said he would spend more than that on his kitchen, just redoing his kitchen in Cape Town. And there's a whole myth that there aren't any good deals in Cape Town. Maybe Jonathan, what would you say for people that are finding it very difficult to get bargain deals in Cape Town? Being a coastal city, everyone's prices just shoots up. Is that true? There aren't any good deals, or are we looking at it differently, huh?
No, I think one has to look at it differently, right? So just as like the high level here, so you got to take note of the layout of Cape Town. It's very international. So I mean, you've got like lots and lots of people from Germany, England, Australia, United States, etc. over here. So that means lots of dollars. That means lots of British pounds. It means lots of euros, right? So keep that in mind. So very international. You've got two oceans here, not just one. That's over performance. You've got a famous mountain with lots of other mountain ranges. You've got nature reserves, wine farms, sporting events.
That's a dig on you, Jade.
Guys, I can just hear this is a typical Cape Townian bragging about Cape Town. I'm just waiting for the mountain to come in.
At least we know which way is east and west, so it's all right.
Wait, I'm getting to a point, guys. I'm not just bragging. I'm getting to a point. And then there's also quite a few really good corporate headquarters here. So if you're thinking about things like Old Mutual, if you're thinking about companies like TFG, there's AXA, etc. So there's really good opportunity here, right? So what that means is you first need to just be clear in terms of what do you want to start playing in. If you want to talk about like multi-let opportunity, there are good deals, but you're going to have to make those good deals happen. So something to keep in mind is that the Western Cape has got the highest average rentals in South Africa, right? The highest rentals. It also has the highest average pricing, right? So if you can work out how to get a good deal in terms of negotiation, good research, good analytics, use a good investment partner to get you in on deals that may not necessarily be out in the market, right? So there's a lot of work to do here in terms of negotiation, networking, knowing the right people, getting into the right places, right? So that's why networks like SAPIN are really important. You can actually get in on a development before it actually gets advertised, or you could find yourself as the one doing the advertisement for that development, right? So really use the SAPIN network. So if you're a member, use the Cape Town SAPIN network. If you're not a member, definitely join up because you can use all of these different forces here to get you those deals, right? So that's just like from a multi-net perspective. I'm not even going to talk about Airbnb because I'm just responding to your question directly, Dan. So you must let me know if you want me to talk about Airbnb, whatever. I'm happy to do
Yes,
so. But
please.
I'll stop.
Like with regards to you did highlight the beauties that come with Cape Town, the unique challenges as well. So what would you say is an opportunity for individuals in Cape Town? Is it a multi-let? Is it student accommodations? Or would a multi-let not work because you may be facing issues like PE with water issues and everything? Could you maybe highlight a few suggestions for people joining us home?
Yeah. So 3 things, Daniel, 3 things, right? So first, if you want to look at the Airbnb scene, right? So I'm first gonna say Airbnb is number 1, number 2 student accommodation, number 3 is multi-let. So number 1, Airbnb, there's tons of potential. You literally have got like Greenpoint, Sea Point, the Atlantic Seaboard. Everyone knows it. You've got Orlando Bloom, KT Holmes, Tom Cruise. Everyone's walking around there, right? Idris Elba is having coffee that side. You can see him at the coffee shop. So those things are going on, right? It attracts a lot of holiday goers, right? So there's tons of potential if you're thinking about Atlantic Seaboard. But what's super cool with Cape Town, and this is going to be a similar point I'm going to make with student accommodation and with multi-let. What's super cool is that lots of people only think about certain areas and they rush for those areas. Price skyrockets, then they say you can't get a deal, right? The cool thing is that even if you move outside of what's like your high advertised area, then you can still find, hey, there's tons of demand suddenly. Whether you're talking student accommodation, Airbnb, multi-let, but if you actually just step outside what everyone keeps saying. So like if you go to the Braai and then this uncle is saying, yeah, you must invest here, you must invest here. Cool. Don't listen to the uncle. Actually do some homework, right? Chat to the people in the network. Do area research. Get some education. Hit the property academy, right? But start learning, build yourself. And then when you start applying those skills outside of the areas that everyone's talking about, suddenly you can find tons of demand. And I know that from experience. That's why I've moved to Cape Town. That's why my company is based in Cape Town. We have that experience. So I would say absolutely. So Airbnb is there, but be a bit creative. Otherwise, you'll be priced out of the market by US dollars and British pounds. Then when you're looking at multi-let, there are tons of corporate headquarters here. And Cape Town, the mayor of Cape Town has been very clear that there's a gigantic shortage of space. And they are trying to free up from a legal perspective, densification, right? The city of Cape Town wants multi-lets, right? We don't have enough. We've got a housing crisis, right? So that's this industry, property, right? Invest, 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 right? So there's lots of opportunity. And then lastly, and then I'll stop talking, then there's student accommodation, right? So there's a really, really big gap in the city of Cape Town with student accommodation. Whether we're talking stuff in city of Cape Town or just on the outside like Stellenbosch with its famous university, there's a huge gap in terms of the number of beds provided by universities and official reses, and then how much students actually need, right? I'm sure you guys have seen the news. There are students like sleeping on the floor outside universities, right? Because there's just not enough space. So what that means is there's a desperate need to actually just go ahead and do more, right? Get more student accommodation, get more multi-lets for working people, get more Airbnb. So there's lots of potential here.
Geez, that sounds amazing. Not that I wouldn't see Cape Town that way, but for the average individual that looks at Cape Town, they just look at the prices. They might decide, geez, yeah, it's definitely not worth it. But if looked at as a trained investor, like you so well put it, it's amazing. Huh? And ladies and gents, once more, welcome to the coffee chat. So we are heading towards the end of our coffee chat, and joining us as well is Redwan Bassa. So if you thought Jonathan was Mr. Cape Town and popped Cape Town so much, you should hear Redwan. But 2021 Investor of the Year, most innovative winner. So ladies and gents, if you do not know, Investor of the Year is officially open. So we are doing live judging in Johannesburg every second Wednesday. Make sure you're emailing support@saproperty network.com. If you have done a deal over the past year, I see Redwan is laughing there. Please make sure you join the Investor of the Year. It's amazing. It's fun. And there's more categories that we've added. The SAPIN Youth, there's SAPIN Women, there's a green category. and it's a whole lot of fun. So what I want to do before we then wrap up and go to questions is maybe go on to events. And maybe bring the different area managers to just talk about high level, the different events, what you can expect if you are within those areas. And make sure you tag a friend that is within the area to connect with the area manager to also get an understanding of the property market, because you do not want to put the whole country into one bracket, because each region comes with its own unique problems. And then we're going to go on to Bevin to talk about the SAPIN prepayment meters. So let us maybe start with Jade. Jade, I know we just spoke to you. The event on the 2nd of March, for the viewers that have just joined us, please let us know once more what they can expect, some of your guest speakers, and everything they need to know. Huh?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So Thursday evening, we've got the most important guest, Andrew Walker, flying down, our CEO. So he'll be down here for 2 days.
I almost thought you'd say Daniel Kazadi after that. So.
Daniel, you're welcome to fly down as well, man. We'd love to have you. And guys, yeah, then our main topic for Thursday evening is student accommodation. Our main guest speaker is Kanyan Gonyama from Joburg, actually, although he does spend a lot of time down here in PE. He loves the beachfront down here. And he bought a couple of big buildings last year in PE, and he's going to be talking about his journey. And then also we'll be throwing in a little bit about developments into the evening as well. And we've got Dr. Chris Mulder, a very, very well-known architect. In fact, he was the architect that developed Thiessen Island in Knysna. I'm sure most of you know which development I'm talking about. So very excited to have them. And I'm sure we're all going to learn a lot from what they have to say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's also an amazing opportunity within PE. I'm not sure if you're of liberty to talk about that, Jade, as well, hey, that you guys are working on.
Not yet, but we're working on something, development. So we will bring that to the SAPIN network hopefully quite soon.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. Just hearing the concepts and everything. Please do keep in touch with the brokerage or Precision Realty, and Jade will give us more details closer to the date. But thank you so much, Jade. We're going to go to Ntando and Bevin. You're having a property walkthrough on the 4th of March. Bevin, not sure if you want to maybe, you and Ntando, maybe tell us a bit about it for people in the areas. Where will you be walking through, what they can expect from that event?
Yes, awesome. So Ntando and I are teaming up for this Saturday. So it's, again, something happening this week. And the idea is we're getting out and about, so we're not going to sit in a room, and we're rather going to get out and work on our hands a bit on Saturday. So that's an exciting one for us. But we're going to really get the opportunity to smell and touch and really take in the properties themselves. So we're doing a full walkthrough, going to what's going to be 7 properties altogether. And there's some nice options there where one or two of the properties are actually on the market. So we can look at the numbers live in those units and say, okay, what opportunities, what strategies can we think about right here in this space? And then also potentially say, hey, is this an opportunity someone can put an offer in on? Or is it something that, from our education perspective, the numbers don't make sense? If the landlord or the seller is going to accept what the numbers tell us to offer, then yes, there's an opportunity. If the seller's not going to accept that, then we all know rather walk away. So there's going to be some great opportunity from that perspective. We're teaming up with Kendall Coward, who is also one of the SAPIN coaches, and he's a full-time REMAX agent. So that's his day job. The same thing. He's a property investor, and he realized very early on in the journey that the estate agents get all the good deals because they're finding those deals, palming them off to their family or friends. So he said, hey, I need to get in on these deals. He became an agent. So he's actually going to take us through to these properties, some of the properties he is managing and some of the properties he owns himself. So we can also see live numbers, live deals that have actually worked and the performance of those deals. We're looking at the areas where we're starting off at the Durban waterfront. We're then going to move through to Margaret Mcardie Avenue, which is the old Victoria embankment. And then we're going to go to Berea, which is a nice area for student accommodation. And we're going to end up at a final property, which is a duplex that's on the market at the moment. So I'm very excited about it. Unfortunately, all our spaces have sold out, but I really do implore people to just like keep your ears to the ground and listen out for any of these events that we host, because these are really great learning experiences and the best way to extract the most information out of your membership.
Geez, it's unfortunate. Unfortunately, it has sold out. But I was going to say, just talking on Kendall, he's a brilliant mind. Andrew claims that Kendall knows each and every single building in the CBD of Durban. That's how detailed the guy is. But it's going to be awesome, Bevin. Just keep us posted. And then just moving on ever so swiftly. Not sure if you're able to talk about the events on the 18th of March, Jonathan, which you're not invited to, the SAPIN Women event Akashni is running.
Yeah, well, so look, she's got this cool. I think the first thing that I must say is, so the previous SAPIN Women event looked fantastic, right? So I was actually like, how come I can't join over here, right? So the women events are really good. They're surprisingly very exciting, or I find them really exciting. For this event coming up on the 18th, she's got a really cool guest speaker, Carmen Jamildin, who's started a company called Meraki Property Solutions. So she's got like 19 years experience in the industry, and she's doing some really cool stuff. So she's going to give a really personalized kind of touch along with Akashni to the women at the event in terms of like really helping to grow their portfolios. How do they, unlock kind of their entrepreneurial ability? I think that we find often that there's like a lower number of females at events versus males. So they really want to see how do they unlock the ability of these females to really kind of tap into the best investing they can do, or how do they really grow the best way that they can. So I think it's a really focused kind of event. I know Akashni would have a much deeper kind of explanation, but I know just from how the previous event went, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. I think that if you are a lady in Cape Town, do check out, do take a look at that link and check out the event. It's very cool.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I got the opportunity to talk to one of I'm not actually allowed to mention who, one of the very high politicians this Saturday, and their goal is to make sure that there's 3 key players they're introducing into the market, as many as possible. The first one, previously disadvantaged, more women and as well youth playing a part in this industry. So if you are in the surrounding areas, make sure you are attending these events. It's uplifting, like Jonathan just said, and just the type of speakers they attract is just world class as well. So Kali, there are a couple of questions, we're just racing against time, that have come up. Do you want to maybe ask it to the specific area managers? Huh?
Yes. So the first one is from Tuma, and he wants to know, this question is for Jade. So he says that a large part of Summerstrand is a large part of Summerstrand going to become student accommodation, or it will still be a good idea to buy into holiday or retirement home there?
Okay, Ngcobo, thanks for the question. So Summerstrand, yes, there's been a massive influx of students into Summerstrand. For those of you who don't know, that's very close to the main campus of NMU. And it's been a bit difficult for some people that have bought many years ago there, because the properties actually haven't kept their value. In fact, some of the properties in the back part of Summerstrand have actually lost value. Now, if you can think about living in an area with thousands of students, typically you're not going to go retire there, right? Or go have a holiday there. So, Ngcobo, just to answer your question, that yes, there's definitely a massive influx, and for the right reasons with students. But I'd say if you're buying between 2nd and 10th Avenue on the front part where the beach is, then you still find those properties are still holding their value. And I don't think we'll see student accommodation in that pocket, especially from a zoning perspective. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, fantastic. And then Kuma has all of the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you, anybody else asking questions? Then he also wants to know, for the KZN guys, what, if any, impact, both good and bad, the floods have had on you guys, and how have you navigated through that positively?
So maybe I'll chat first. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ntando, if you've got any input as well. But I did mention earlier that some of the bad elements of the flood damage has been to sort of the municipality infrastructure. So going into December last year, the municipality infrastructure from the sewage treatment perspective still hadn't recovered, still hadn't been put under control. So that affected the tourism quite badly last year, going into this last December. And then there's still quite a lot of road closures in areas up the north coast. So that means like the N4 is taking a bit of strain there, etc. So from that perspective, we're still recovering from some of the damage. The worst of the damage was really in sort of like your informal areas, and I think that's obviously going to take a long time for them to recover. As far as opportunities, I think people have this habit of forgetting so quickly. So the impacts of the floods in the areas that we as investors would be looking, it's recovered quickly, it's bounced back, and it really is a case of, if you're going to take up the opportunities, it's maybe looking at any of these distressed sellers who have decided they're sick and tired of Durban because it's obviously being cursed. So over the last few years of the riots and then the floods, etc. So you might have a few opportunities from that perspective to find a distressed seller who just wants to go to Cape Town. So that's the opportunity there. I don't know, Ntando, if you had anything?
We actually haven't been affected that much by the flooding here in Pietermaritzburg. We have really good infrastructure here, even though some people may think this is a village. But yeah, the infrastructure is actually pretty good. So we haven't been impacted negatively. But the one thing that I've seen that happens now a lot are hailstorms. And that's why earlier on I underlined that people want more of a quality accommodation here, because the way some of these structures are and the way some of them are so old now, Victorian style, or built many years ago, not refurbished or touched in any way, you find when there's a storm that, okay, there are definitely defects in some of the buildings, in some of the homes as well. So yeah, I think from a flooding point of view, no, but in terms of a hailstorm point of view, definitely we've had some problems.
Geez, yeah, thank you so much for that, team. So, ladies and gents, thank you so much for all your questions. Just the last one, I know upon the different areas, the different strategies that would work, a common recurring theme, provided you dot your I's and cross your T's, a common thing is the potential or the opportunity, Bevin, when it comes to multi-tenanted type of investments. But a key thing that you normally mention is managing your utilities. I know Jade also spoke about it just briefly. Do you want to maybe talk about your experiences in multi-lets and student accommodations around utilities and prepayment meters and everything?
100%. Yeah, so it's actually quite exciting what we're going into this year with SAPIN prepaid. And I think the reality is, even though we focus on educating everyone within the network itself, it's very surprising how often we still find some of the investors burning their fingers on their utilities. And I, even without pointing fingers, Jade and I were having a conversation last December when I was up in Joburg for one of the SAPIN events, and he was telling me about one of his properties, multi-lets, where someone had left a toilet running. And I can't remember the bill that you received, Jade, but I still shudder to think. I think you were talking like 70 grand.
Yep.
So a heavy bill that you can't budget for. You can't plan to spend. If your normal expense is 4 grand a month, suddenly someone has left a toilet running and it's now 70 grand. So, and that happens to the best of us. So you definitely are one of the best of us, Jade. So not to knock you. And it's, so even that, where we think we've got everything covered. So what I found in this space is, understand what prepaid meters can do for you. So not only from a perspective of recovering your utilities, but even on the water side, especially from a perspective of preventing wastage. So what I often suggest to people and is that idea: put a water meter in and load it with, if you know you're going to spend 5,000 Rand a month on a multi-let property's worth of water, then put 2 grand in the first week of the month, and make sure that middle of the month you then top it up with the last bit of money. That way you're protecting yourself. If there is a burst pipe or if there's a toilet running or something, the water, that credit on your meter runs out and it stops. So then your damage is only the 2,000 Rand that you've loaded at the beginning of the month. Because unfortunately, the problem with tenants is they don't tell you that there's a dripping tap or that there's a leaking toilet or that the pipes burst. They'll only tell you when you send them their portion of the water bill, and they go, oh, but you didn't fix the toilet. So this way, the water runs out, it turns off, and you say, hey, why is the water stopping? And you've got the opportunity to investigate because now you know that it's out of the normal. So that's one thing. The other thing is, if the tenants are paying for that prepaid water and the water disappears too quickly, believe you me, they are going to pick up the phone and tell me that there's a leaking toilet or a leaking tap and so on, and that I need to sort it out. So it just changes and retrains the tenant from that perspective. So like from a water perspective, I really think it's very important that people think about putting prepaid water meters in, especially on multi-lets and any sort of property that you've got going. From a tenant perspective, it helps you to move away from the administration of going and doing your water meter reading, sending them an invoice, trying to chase them for that extra money to get the water. Maybe the tenant has an expensive family member who loves to swim in the bath every month or whatever. So it helps them look after the water from a tenant perspective. Then one of the funny stories I heard was one of the properties that we bought is the seller didn't realize that his prepaid, that his municipality meter had been bypassed by the tenants at some stage. He wasn't paying attention to his prepaid meter recoveries. He wasn't paying attention to how much electricity he was spending on the property. So when we sort of challenged him on it, he sort of said, no, I've got prepaid meters on the property and the prepaid vendor is paying the municipality. So I don't have to worry about the electricity for the municipality. So, and it was very difficult for me to sort of like take that in and go like, actually, some people do need to understand the process and to understand that you as the landlord are always going to be responsible for the municipality or the Eskom electricity. So you have to buy the electricity from the municipality or Eskom, and it's then your responsibility to recover that from your tenants. So A, you do it by sending them an invoice with their statement, or B, you set up a prepaid meter upfront that they pay for the electricity that they're buying from you. So I think that's very important, and really understanding what that in and out means. If you're spending 1,000 Rand on electricity, you need to be getting 1,000 Rand back on electricity. So you need to pay attention to a lot of that. And I think so just maybe to wrap up is, I'm very aware that some people are still in this process of understanding how prepaid meters work. So we really are making ourselves available to say, hey, get in touch with us and chat to us, and we are willing to help make sure that no one makes the same mistakes, and we really do learn from these mistakes.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think you said it best at one of the events. Just like how we are professional property investors, they are professional tenants that can bypass anything. Right? And you obviously want to make sure that you're safeguarding your investments, you're watching your utilities. So if you are interested in learning more or actually utilizing one of the SAPIN prepayments, make sure you are emailing support@sapropertynetwork.com, and we'll make sure we put you in touch with Bevin and the team to help you and guide you through the process. But ladies and gents, we have reached the end of our coffee chat. We went longer than expected, but it was good fun, good meeting all the area managers throughout the different regions. Does anyone just want to leave with parting words?
I do. Just calling people from Pietermaritzburg. Guys, just hit me up, or as Daniel has said, send an email to propertynetwork.com. Is it .com? Yeah.
Yes. Putting
Yeah,
it in the
become
comment section.
become a member. Become a member. There's a lot of potential here in Pietermaritzburg, and not just in Pietermaritzburg, but also in other inland areas of KZN. Yeah, let's get you started on a property journey.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we were supposed to get a team member from Intergen to talk about the budget speech. I see there's a long 2 minutes voice note Bruno just sent saying that he thought it was going to start at 2, the coffee chat. So Bruno also topped the ball. But don't worry, we will be having a dedicated event together with business partners, one of our partners talking about interest rates. How does that affect us as investors, the different increases, the different decreases in personal taxes, and also the solar law that just came out as well. So it's going to be awesome. But ladies and gents, for myself and the entire team, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.